Hi, we're now going to talk about Twitter and its importance to potentially see your personal and your professional profile. We'll then discuss about very basic steps of creating your user account, how to interact on Twitter, some basic terminologies around this, and then thinking from the business point of view, how to create a Twitter engagement plan over the long term.
What is Twitter? Twitter is a microblogging platform where you have the opportunity to do a tweet which is 140 characters in length. Now, consider how you might use Twitter. You can use Twitter personally, and many do. You can use Twitter as a brand, or you could use, potentially as we do, Twitter as an agency. One of the problems you have when you're tweeting commercially is thinking about what you do and how you go about what you say. For example, how do you engage with people who might be interested in your product or service? People may think that a product or service may be dull, may be boring. That's not necessarily the case. The thing with Twitter is, whatever you do, there is a community of people who are interested in that product or service. The art of Twitter is to find those people who are going to engage with you. So Twitter involves a lot of listening. You choose who you can follow, whose tweets you choose to see, and they will choose whether they want to follow you. So thinking about what you're going to say, when you're going to say it, and how you're going to say it is really quite important. Consider your personal use of Twitter. Your employers can see what you tweet. Many employers might be comfortable about that. What about future employers? Do they want to know about what you're up to in your holiday and who you're doing things with? Some might be comfortable with that, some might not. The nature of the world as we know it is changing significantly thanks to social media, but you do need to give some consideration as to what you say and how you say it. If you're using Twitter as a commercial entity, if you're a brand, you have to give consideration as to what is interesting for you to say and who you say it to. Now, you would generally use Twitter by going out and finding people who are genuinely interested in what you have to say. There are many strategies where you can go and buy, say, 50,000 Twitter followers. That's meaningless. It's not the volume of people who follow you, it's the people who will actually engage with you. So finding people who are genuinely interested in what you do is absolutely critical. Once you have a meaningful relationship with those people, you have an opportunity to get enormous outreach with Twitter. So if you are interested in the classic blue widgets, you find people who also talk about blue widgets. And then you don't talk at them, you talk with them. So rather than saying, have a look at this, have a look at this, have a look at this repeatedly, you respond to people, you respond in a genuinely interested manner, and you do things like retweet what people have to say if it is genuinely useful.
So first of all, if you realize that Twitter is an important tool for you, or if it is potentially useful for you as an individual or a company, where do you start? Well, luckily for you, Twitter is one of the easiest networks to join, and it's one of the easiest networks to use. So, before you start thinking about creating a Twitter account, what are you supposed to be aware of? Well, first of all, the username, the descriptions, the images that you're going to develop have to be all consistent with your personal brand or your company brand that you're trying to portray. It's something that you need to be aware of in terms of your profile description development is that when on Twitter, all the views are perceived to be yours. So if you're associated with a company, it's very important for you to try and make it clear. So the assumption is, if you are working for an organization, the assumption is that you are tweeting on the company's behalf. If you are going to tweet on your personal behalf, you should state so in your Twitter description. And this is a commonly made mistake by a number of Twitter users, and potentially this is something that gets people into big trouble. One of the basic things that we'll try and do today or now is to get you to use Twitter on some very basic level, and then you can improve it hopefully as time goes by. So one thing that you should be aware of in terms of Twitter is that anything you publish online will be available to the world. So you have to be careful what messages you want to send out. So do try and maintain some basic legal considerations. So try and also not post anything that's not copyrighted and some other information that would potentially offend others or make you sort of be in trouble for one way or another. So think before you tweet. That's lesson number 1. Right, so now we're going to create a Twitter account. So as we said, we've considered what keywords you want to be associated with. We've considered what kind of username and images that you're going to use for your Twitter profile. So if you were to type in twitter.com, www.twitter.com, you will get to the login screen. The first thing that it will prompt you to do is, if you have got an account already, obviously log in using your credentials. If you haven't, you need to create an account. So do so now. Okay, now you've got your Twitter account. The first steps that you are offered to do from Twitter is to try and personalize your account. So things that you will be able to do now is upload your images for your profile picture. You also have the opportunity to choose themes and some other customizations for your brand online on this particular network. Whilst you can do it at any time, it's useful to sort of bear in mind that we are practicing, so it doesn't really matter to do all these steps right now. So one thing that we want to get across is how do we use Twitter for you as an individual. Right, so you've got a Twitter account. So hopefully you are able now to send your first tweet. When we're thinking about tweeting, we need to bear in mind that any message that you send has to be 140 characters long. Although it sounds like a lot of characters, actually it is a sort of an average sentence length and doesn't allow you to perhaps communicate in the most sort of explicit manner. So that's why people use a number of abbreviations on Twitter, and you will soon become aware once you've seen several of those used by other users. Right. First of all, when you're thinking about tweeting, it's useful to think about hashtags. And you might have heard about other people who use hashtags to signify a topic is very important for you. So a hashtag is any word that you are simply prefixing with a hash in front of it. So hash Search and Social Media Marketing by the University of Salford is abbreviated hash SSMM-UOS. And once you send in the first tweet that you might have, you might be able to find tweets of other users who will have been using that same hashtag, or yourself also being able to use that hashtag with your conversation. This will help you to see who else uses the same course or who else is contributing to this conversation, and helps others to identify yourself and obviously talk to one another. And we're hoping that Twitter will help you to support your development on this course. So if you have any questions, or if you want to get some advice, or if you want to see and speak to others who are doing this course, you are able to use hash SSMMUOS and able to get in touch with them. It doesn't matter where you are in the world, the hashtag will be able to signify to anybody else that you are contributing to this discussion. Right, well, before you do your first tweet, it's useful to do a search using hash SSMMUOS and see what other people have done. Let's go back to Twitter and type in hash SSMMUOS. So hopefully you have seen some other people contributing to this hashtag, and you can see their tweets or the message that they have sent, and you can see where they're from. Okay, so the one thing that we want you to do now is potentially either retweet what they have said. By retweet we mean either repeat what the message it is that they have done. So this is a very simple way of endorsing somebody's contribution, or a simple way of saying that you agree with somebody else's views, or a simple way to say, right, I want to edit a message and then contribute to the same conversation. Right, when you're going to do the first tweet, you can put your hashtag either at the front or at the end of the message, or actually anywhere in the body of the message, so it doesn't really matter. But from a stylistic point of view, it's useful if the hashtag is within the sentence sort of structure, so it doesn't appear sort of as an addition to what you're trying to do. So for example, if you wanted to say on Twitter, I am currently on this course from the University of Salford and I'm coming from the UK, a simple message that you can send is, I am looking at hash SSMMUOS and I'm based in hash UK. So this gives people a clear view of where you're based and the fact that you have contributed to this discussion. So the next stage is for you, once you've sent your tweets to everybody else, is see how you could reply. Communicating on Twitter is very simple. So you only have 140 characters and you can include hashtags. And the other way to identify an individual that you want to send a message to, bearing in mind that that message is going to be publicly seen to everybody else, is to include their Twitter username or a Twitter handler in the message that you're trying to send. So for example, if you are sending a message to myself, Alexei Heinze, at Alexei Heinze, will be receiving the message and I'll get a notification to say, hey, somebody is trying to speak to me. So if you are on Twitter, you can see that there is a very small button at the bottom of the web interface where it says reply. So if you click reply, you will be able to send your message or type in the message and then click send. So the last thing that we want to talk about is using lists and direct messages. Lists is another way of creating industry experts groups or individuals that you want to follow or contribute to conversation to. So one thing that Twitter does is it creates a number of followers. So if you can see the number of people who have contributed to the #SSMMUOS, you can click on the individual profile and then click and say that you want to follow them. By following an individual, and whenever you're logging into Twitter web interface, you can see the tweets from these individuals straight away. So previously we had to search online to see some tweets from others. Now we will see tweets automatically from the people that we follow and then we contribute to. So this makes life easier for you every time that you want to see an update from the industry and see what's going on. It's also easier for those people who are interested to see what kind of people are you interested in. So if you think about personal branding again, try and see who you want to be associated with. And if you're a serious individual, if you're interested, for example, in digital marketing industry, a good profile would suggest that you would follow other people in the same industry and you will see what's going on from the perspective of that. However, if you are interested in comics or if you are using Twitter for your hobby, you can likewise look at comics and anything else that might be associated or the key figures in that industry as well. So you can see it is quite versatile. If you don't like contributions for somebody else, simply click unfollow. Okay, let's try and do some very simple exercise in creating some lists. Well, a very simple way of creating a list is everybody who is already contributing to the #SSMMUOS course. So let's try and do that. If you were to go and search for the #SSMMUOS online, you can see all the different people who've contributed to that. Try and look at the different profiles that they have done and follow them. Don't worry, you can unfollow everybody as you progress with your Twitter use. So we have talked about the basic principle about creating your Twitter profile, how you would go about tweeting and sending tweets and retweets. So the important point consideration that you need to think about as a business is what is Twitter going to contribute to your business objectives. So a very simple way to think about it is thinking about sales, marketing, market research or customer support. So those are four basic areas you can think about. However, it's important for you to decide how you want to approach it and think about your competitors. What is the industry like? Are other people using it in the same way? Are your customers likely to engage with you in the same way as well? Maybe your industry is going through the adoption process still, so it's useful for you to be able to see how you can engage with that indeed. So in terms of Twitter, to just summarize, it's very simple to create, it's simple to use, it allows you to engage with audiences across the world very quickly at a click of a button, and it also gives you some great advice and feedback in terms of the customer communication that you can get very quickly indeed. However, if you're thinking about using Twitter seriously, you need to think about the long-term plan and resource commitments that you will need to put into place, i.e. individual who will be manning this and then making sure that the information that is being put out and the tone and manner that is going to be useful for the audiences that you will have.